Cultural Adjustment, a Tale of Adaptation. Hello, I'm Shannon, and today I'll be presenting how cultural adjustment in response to culture shock leads to a cross-cultural melding. This is a topic of personal interest and ongoing research that I believe is insightful to the arts today. This graphic shows the different stages that lead up to cultural adjustment. My interest in this topic arose from my own experience with culture shock after moving to Montana. I was born and raised on the island Oahu of Hawaii to my Korean mother and my Caucasian father. Growing up, I was immersed in a blend of various Asian and Hawaiian cultural practices that influenced my values and my identity. On the left of this graphic shows the honeymoon stage, which in my experience was the excitement of moving off the island to go to graduate school. After moving to Montana, my crisis stage was my inner turmoil as I grappled with a sense of belonging, because it was the first time I was living completely on my own in a place with very little Asian presence, so I was feeling really isolated. And in order to initiate this recovery stage, I began to reconnect with my Korean heritage while also holding on to those ideals and values that I grew up with. And I was doing this in order to maintain my sense of self. But it wasn't easy because in order to adapt, you have to change. So I had to decide when it was appropriate to hold on to those ideals and when it was time to let go. An artist I'm interested in who influences me and is related to cultural adjustment is James Jean. He was born in Taiwan and then moved to New Jersey when he was 3 years old. He's very well known for his illustrations of the Fables comic book covers, as well as movie posters such as The Shape of Water and Everything Everywhere All at Once, and more. Now he's gaining more acclaim for his paintings, prints, and his multimedia fabrications. In an interview, Jean has said, "I don't really think of myself as Asian American. I don't really feel like I really belong anywhere, so I'm just floating." I personally relate to this, never feeling Korean enough or white enough, but somewhere in between. I really just see myself as mixed, and I embrace that now, which is why I'm interested in Jean's work as he applies both Eastern and Western influences. So if we look at his painting Bouquet, we can see references to American pop culture through Looney Tunes and the Yeezys. This central figure is actually Elmer Fudd, and he's got this flower growth sprouting from his head and surrounding him. There are a bunch of peonies and chrysanthemums. They remind me of a flower aura in manga. There's also a comic speech bubble of agate, which could be a reference to Scholar Rocks. All the while, there's this casual decapitation, much like Judith with the head of Holofernes. So there's a lot of conceptual layering happening in this painting from east to west, from pop culture to historical references, which is why I believe that this painting in particular is exemplary of how Jean's work relates to the Superflat movement. So the Superflat theory was coined in 2001 by this artist, Takashi Murakami, who also pioneered the art movement. Art within the Superflat theory often incorporates motifs of popular culture. It merges highbrow with lowbrow, so it's also known as Japan's pop art. To give Superflat more context, Japan underwent a cultural reinvention to rebuild after World War II. They wanted to be more like the West, focusing on industrialization and consumerism. And on one hand, they were very successful. Japanese culture, including manga, anime, and video games, became popular internationally. Now, on the other hand, Murakami argues that through consumerism, Japan was losing the uniqueness that made it stand out as a nation. What I wonder is whether or not this popularization of Japan's culture is an example of cultural adjustment and adaptation, or if it's actually an example of dilution because they've let go of too much. Both James Jean and, by proxy, the Superflat movement have influenced my direction of work, but I want to know how these theories and movements apply outside of the artwork. It's really important to me that an art practice is interconnected with one's life practice. So I want to know how these ideas relate to living and to being. Perhaps looking at the Korean diaspora of Central Asia, the Koryo-Saram, could provide some answers to these questions. In the late 19th century, Koreans from the northern part of the peninsula migrated to the Siberian Far East seeking a better life. And then sometime later, in 1937, Joseph Stalin became suspicious that Koreans were acting as spies for the Japanese Empire and thus had some 172,000 Koreans deported to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. About 500,000 Koryo-Saram live in Central Asia today. The Koryo-Saram wear Western clothing. They speak Russian because the Korean language was ousted from schools. They celebrate some Korean holidays, and they share many of the same cooking techniques, but instead with local ingredients. One such dish is called morkovcha, which is a marinated and seasoned carrot salad. Morkovcha is actually a variant of kimchi that uses carrots because there were no Napa cabbages in the area. It's a popular dish that is a great example of cultural adjustment. Jenia Kim is a Koryo-Saram fashion designer born in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and raised in Russia. Her work melds her Korean and Uzbekistan heritage, inspired by national dress, architecture, lifestyle, and local traditions. For example, if we look at this photograph, this model is wearing one of Kim's jogori, which is a Korean-style jacket, but it's made with bekasam, which are traditional Uzbek fabrics. She's also sitting atop this pile of kirpacha, which is an Uzbek mattress traditional to Central Asia. We can see how Kim is combining both cultures' love of bright colors, pattern, and embroidery to create something that's familiar yet new. I also want to briefly mention the Hallyu, or the Korean wave, which is the globalization of South Korean popular culture, including K-drama, K-pop music like BTS, K-cinema like Parasite, K-fashion, K-beauty, and more. I parallel Hallyu with the popularization of Japan's culture, and I ask the same questions. How much of it will be an example of cultural adjustment and adaptation versus dilution? I'm thinking about all of these things as I walk through life and as I try to adapt. I'm doing so by reconnecting with my Korean heritage. So on the left is a picture of a moon house, which is a structure that is built and then set aflame in order to enshrine the first full moon of the Lunar New Year and to wish for prosperity. I created a sculptural version which represents enshrining the spirit of the moon inside oneself as a way of becoming one with the greater universe and finding belonging. I'm also interested in mythological creatures. On the left is a Korean folk painting of a haetae, which is a chimeric creature that's scaly, it has horns, it's of the water element, so it's meant to protect against fire disaster. During my time in Missoula, Montana, it was the first time I experienced wildfires, and I thought, this place could really use a haetae. So I sculpted one, combining the local animals of that area, including a bear, deer, and crow. Both of these sculptures, the moon house and the haetae, I believe are some of my successes in cultural adaptation, but I still have my insecurities and I still question when it's time to hold on and when it's time to let go. I believe that these kinds of struggles, the search for connection and belonging cross-culturally, are prevalent in the arts today. There are many artists that I haven't included on this slide, but these are just some that have impacted my current journey. They include Chrissy Ramirez, Beth Lowe, Tyler Quinton, Inju Park, April Whirl, Tiana Nanayo Ku'ulealoha Handa, Delaney Nisun Shin, and again, many, many more. I encourage you to look up these artists and to continue following my journey. Thank you very much.